Okay, class. We will proceed to module 9. No, we will we will skip module 8 because module 9, 10, 11, and 12 covers the same topics. So, for our P1 exam, instead of including module 8, we will skip module 8 and we will include module 12. Okay, so instead of the exam coverage from module 1 to 11, we will make it module 1 to 7, then 9 to 12. The same number of modules covered, but the topics are different. Okay, because I don't want to cut the discussion on the circumstances affecting criminal liability. Okay, so that's the reason that I will include module 12 and leave module 8, because module 8 is a different topic. No, it's more complicated because it speaks of complex crimes. So we will have a different discussion. Maybe that will be the first discussion for the P2 to P3 exam coverage. Okay, for P1, again, we will have modules 1 to 7 and then 9 to 12. Okay, now what do you mean by these circumstances affecting liability? So there are things, no, there are circumstances, there are events, there are actions, there are activities that will affect the personal liability of the person in relation to the crime. So personal liability, criminal liability means the penalty to be imposed or even the nature of the crime. So we have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 circumstances that affects the criminal liability of persons. We have justifying, exempting, absolutory, mitigating, extenuating, aggravating, alternative, and qualifying circumstances. Okay, so I will discuss all these circumstances meaning this lecture video will cover modules 9 to 12. Okay, so let's proceed with the first circumstance. First is that justifying circumstance. We have five justifying circumstance. First is self-defense, very common. Second second, defense of relatives. Third is defense of strangers. Fourth, avoidance of a greater evil. And fifth is the fulfillment of duty. Okay, so now let's proceed to self-defense. I don't know what is justifying circumstance. In this case, justifying circumstance is what do you call this? How I will explain it in layman's term. Okay, these are the five justifying circumstances that I mentioned will make your action you are not criminally liable, will make your actions not criminal in nature. Okay, for example, killing is considered either in law, no, it's considered either murder or homicide. Okay, so those are killing, maybe murder or homicide. But if you kill someone because of self-defense, the act of killing is not punished by law and it is not considered homicide or murder. Okay, so it means that the act the criminal act is justified, no, or your action is justified, making it not criminal. Okay, I think that is the more simple way of explaining what is a justifying circumstance. Justifying circumstance makes the action of a person justified, making his act not criminal. Okay, so for example, killing is inherently criminal, but because of self-defense, the act of killing is not considered criminal in nature. Okay, so let's discuss self-defense. There are three requirements of self-defense. We have what we call unlawful aggression, reasonable. The first element is unlawful aggression. Second, reasonable necessity of means employed to prevent or repel it, and repel it meaning the aggression. C is the lack of sufficient provocation on the part of the defender. Okay, when we say unlawful aggression is that there is violence, no? Unlawful violence that is committed by a person to another. Okay, unlawful violence. So, for example, A punch B, no? A punch B in his face. So the act of punching is an example of unlawful aggression. Okay, so A punch B in his face for no reason or for the purpose of killing, with the intent to kill or with a malicious intent. Okay, so but if A punches the face of B because B tries to stab A, then that is not unlawful aggression. Okay, that is not unlawful aggression, but that is an example of self-defense. Okay, unlawful aggression. Second is reasonable necessity of means employed to prevent or repel it. Okay, for example, your A tries to punch B, no, in the face, no. In the process of their altercation, or in the when A threatens to punch B in his face, B get his .45 pistol and shoot or shot A, no. So there is the means to prevent the unlawful aggression, the act of punching, is not reasonably necessary, no. It is excessive, no. So instead of using your .45 pistol, you can use other materials or other ways to prevent the unlawful aggression of punching the face, no. It is like it is not. It really depends upon the circumstance. No? That is what I am trying to say, because there are different circumstances that needs to be considered. Like for example, A tries to punch B in his face, but then B used his pistol to prevent the act of punching in his face. No, in his face. So if that alone, we can say that the use of the .45 pistol is unreasonable, unnecessary, excessive. But if B tries to punch A in a deserted place, in a dark deserted place, and B is accompanied by a number of persons, then A uses his .45 pistol, then maybe the judge, no, will appreciate the use of pistol as a reasonable necessity of means, no, to prevent the future harm. Okay, so again, I just want to explain the concept of unlawful aggression. So aggression is violence, no. It's more than verbal. There must be physical violence, no. There must be physical violence, aggression. There must be a positive act. When we say reasonable necessity, that the way or the means to prevent unlawful aggression is commensurate or at least reasonable, necessary, and not excessive in nature. Okay, as I have given you an example. Then lack of sufficient provocation on the part of the offender, meaning there is an unlawful aggression not because of the fault of the defender. Okay, there is an unlawful aggression not because of the fault of the defender, or not due to the provocation of the defender. Like for example, he heard B saying bad things to the family of A, or saying bad things against A. So there was a provocation on the part of B, no, because he uttered malicious, defamatory accusations against A. So to defend his honor, A tries to punch B. So although there is an aggression on the part of BA, and that is considered unlawful because even if B committed slanderous deeds, it is not justified, it is not justifiable on the part of A to punch B. Okay, it's not justified. No, it doesn't mean that you heard slanderous things against you and then you will attack the person who utters those things. So, but there is a sufficient provocation on the part of the defender B, no, because defense of honor, no, right to honor is considered as a sufficient provocation, no. Defending one's honor is a sufficient provocation, and it cannot be so hence the three elements of self-defense is not complied because the three elements should concur with each other, meaning there should be unlawful aggression, reasonable necessity of means employed to prevent the unlawful aggression, and that there is a lack of sufficient provocation on part of the defender. Absence of either one of the three elements will make the action will make the defense of self-defense untenable. Okay, meaning you cannot use the self-defense as your defense in the criminal case filed against you. Okay. So, reasonable necessity of means employed to prevent or repel it. Like another example is life cannot be equal to property. For example, A tries to steal. No, A tries to steal the watch of B. So without any physical harm, the act of stealing itself or the crime of theft, no, you cannot just because somebody committed the crime of theft, no, or steal something from you, you cannot shoot him or her just because of you are defending your right to property. Okay, so you need to understand that concept. Life cannot be equal to property. If some of you will proceed to law school, no, there will be more in-depth discussions. Again, the time that we were given is very, very limited, and I can only scratch the surface of the topics assigned to us. Because if I'm going to deal and discuss all the concept and cases, relevant cases related to self-defense, then the entire week will not be sufficient for us to discuss everything. So I just want you to remember the three elements of self-defense. Unlawful aggression, meaning there is a violent act, no? There are violent acts committed by a person, unjustifiable violent acts, okay? And then unreasonable necessity, meaning there must be the action of preventing the unlawful aggression should be commensurate. Like for example, if the aggressor is a 70-year-old frail man, okay, weak and frail man, no, tries to punch you in the face and you use a knife to defend yourself, that is not reasonable and necessary. The means used to prevent or to the means used to repel the unlawful aggression is excessive. So that is what reasonable necessity of means employed to prevent unlawful aggression means. And then lack of sufficient provocation on the part of the defender, it should be that the defender is without fault. Okay, so that's it. And then defense of relatives, we have three elements. Unlawful aggression, we already explained that. Reasonable necessity of means employed to prevent or repel it, we also explained that. The third element is that in case person attack, provoke, attacker, defender must have no part therein. Okay? So, in case a person attack, provoke, attacker, I cannot understand what okay. Okay. So it only means to say that okay. It only means to say that in case of defense of relative, the person who tries to defend the relative, has no part or is not part of the provocation. Okay, he just simply wants to protect his relative. So if there is a altercation, there is a physical confrontation between another person and your relative, and you try to help your relative, that is just a the one who defends the relative should not take part or has no or is not part of the altercation or of the physical confrontation. So he should be his or her participation is merely to aid and defend his relative. So that is quite self-explanatory. Okay, so who are the relatives? A spouse, your wife or your husband, ascendants, your parents, your grandparents, etc. Descendants, your children, your grandchildren, etc. Legitimate, natural, or adopted brothers, sisters. Relatives by affinity in the same degree. Relatives by consanguinity within the fourth civil degree. So, those are the persons considered defense of those are the person considered by law as your relatives. Okay. Defense against stranger. Again, there are three elements: unlawful aggression. Number two, reasonable necessity of the means employed to prevent and repel it. So the same the same elements with the other two defenses. And then the person defending be not induced by revenge, resentment, or other evil motive. So what do you mean to say? So A and B are having a physical confrontation, or they are fighting, They are fighting with each other. And it would seem to appear that B is losing against A. So A has superior strength against B. So, and based on the circumstances, C defended B from the attack of A. So if the purpose of helping, if the purpose of C in helping B is that he wants to take revenge against A, or he has resentment, may galit, may naikasuko, si person C to may galit si person C kay person A, the purpose of why C helps B is because C resents A, or that C has an evil motive against A, then the defense of stranger is not applicable. Okay, so meaning the act of defending B is purely for the reason to defend B as the losing end, or as the losing party in that physical confrontation. Okay, so in other words, the purpose of the person defending a stranger should not be motivated by should not be motivated by ill will, revenge, or resentment. Okay. Then we have also avoidance of greater evil. Okay, what are the elements? Evil sought to be avoided actually exists. The second is that injury feared be greater than that done to avoid it. 3, there is no practical or less harmful means of preventing it. Okay, how do you let us give a concrete example for you to understand it fully. For example, A threatens B that if he will not okay, this evil sought to be avoided actually exists. Okay, A threatens B that if B will not kill C. Okay, again, A threatens B that if B will not kill C, A will kill B. Okay, so sabi ni A kay B, pag hindi niya patayin si C, siya ang papatayin ni A. Okay, I don't know if my Tagalog translation is correct, but A threatens B that if he will not kill C, then A will kill B. Okay, now are the requisites present? Okay, so first, evil sought to be avoided actually exists. So the threat, the intensity of threat should be analyzed. If the threat is just verbal with no other manifestation, is there really is the threat of killing, is the threat of A to kill B really exist? Does A has the means to kill B? Has A has the opportunity to kill B? Those circumstances should be considered. So for example, if A put a time bomb in the body of B, and if he will not kill C, then the time bomb will be triggered, and then it will explode. So there is the evil sought to prevent or to be avoided actually exists. So or another example is that A held hostage the wife, the son, or the family member of B. So if the threat, if B will not kill C, then the wife or the son or any other relative of B will be killed. So in that scenario, then the evil sought to be avoided truly exists. But if there is just a mere verbal threat, and then based on the circumstance of the case, A has no means to kill B, or the opportunity of killing is very low, then it can be argued that the evil sought to be avoided actually does not exist. Okay, injury feared be greater than to be avoided. Okay, so in this case, so it's like if you don't kill C, I will kill you. So the fear, the fear of being killed is greater than the thing that you will avoid, so injury feared be greater than to avoid it. Okay, so for example, to give a more concrete example, A threatens B to be physically assaulted. A threatens B that if B will not kill C, he will be physically assaulted by A. So bubugbugin ni A si B pag hindi papatayin ni B si C. So that's the scenario. So is the act of killing, the injury of physical injury. So physical injury versus killing B, saan ang mas mabigat, which is more graver, which is more greater? So essentially, physical harm versus killing, mas greater yung killing, mas greater yung killing. So fulfill the avoidance of greater evil is not or the injury feared is not greater than to avoid it. Okay, because the injury feared is like self-injury lang naman compared to killing. So another example para mas maintindihan, no? A threatens B that if he will not kill C, A will get B's laptop. Okay? B's laptop. So, ibigay mo na yun ng laptop. Ibigay mo na lang yung laptop kaysa pumatay ka ng tao. So, that is the example of injury be feared, be greater than to be avoided. So, another example is that A threatens B that if B will not get the purse of C, B will be killed by A. Okay, no? So the fear of life is greater than the loss of property on the part of C. So ganyan. Then there is no practical or less harmful means of preventing it. So like in our earlier example, if may time bomb na in that body of B, then there is no other way for him but to do what is asked of him, and that is to kill C. Okay, so I think that is avoidance of greater evil. Then fulfillment of duty or lawful exercise of right or office. So this here comes the police officer. So if you kill someone on the line of your duty, then you are exempt from any liability. Or you are not exempt. You are justified in doing the killing if you have killed in line of your duty. Okay? But again, you need to be very, very careful on that. No? Not to abuse that right. Okay? Okay. Then exempting circumstance. Exempting circumstance is that there is a crime committed, but you will not be criminally liable. Okay? In justifying circumstance, there is really no crime that happened. Like for example, in self-defense, A killed B as an act of self-defense. That is not considered murder. Okay, because the act of A in killing B is justified. In accepting circumstance, for example, in the case of imbecility or insanity, may sira ang ulo, no? Insanity. Sa Bisaya, buang. Okay? So, the person who is insane killed B. The act of killing is still considered murder or homicide, no? So homicide, so the act of an insane person killing another person is still homicide, but the insane person will be exempt from the criminal liability. Okay? A will be exempt from criminal liability because again, based on our earlier topics, dolo, the crimes punished under RPC should be are considered dolo, and one of the requirement is free will and intelligence. So an insane person has no free will and intelligence to understand the legal consequences of his action, but there's still homicide. It's just that the person is not made liable for the crimes he committed. Okay, that's clear, ha? In justifying circumstance, there is no crime that was committed. In accepting circumstance, there is a crime committed, but the person committing that crime is exempt from the criminal liability. So hindi siya pwede hatulan or hindi siya magsiserve ng sentence niya just because he is exempt from the criminal liability. So what are the examples of exempting circumstance? Imbecility or insanity, minority. So in Philippines, minority is below 18 years old. So a minor cannot be is exempt from serving the sentence. Okay. Accident. So when we say accident, this is reckless imprudence resulting to homicide. There is still a homicide, but you will not be accident, compulsion, What do you mean by okay. Well, accident is not negligence, no? So he committed, okay, I will explain it later. So, accident, compulsion of irresistible force, impulse of uncontrollable fear, insuperable or lawful cause. Okay. So when we say insanity, so alam naman natin what is insanity, no? If a person at the time of the commission of the crime, blah blah. Okay. Insanity. Okay. So, insanity is only exempting circumstance if at the time of the commission of the crime, the person committing the crime was insane. Okay? So, wala siyang criminal liability if at the time of the commission of the crime, he is insane. But if the person became insane during the trial, no, after he committed the crime, he was not insane. During the commission of the crime, he is during lucid interval. That's the correct term if you want to be technical about it. The person who is not insane, or at the time of the commission of the crime, he is in his lucid interval. LUCID. Okay, lucid interval. But during the trial, he became insane. Then the trial will be suspended, but the trial will resume, and he will not be exempted from serving the sentence, because at the time of the commission, he is not insane. So if at the time, no, that the time of the commission, the person is in his lucid interval. During trial, the person is also during his lucid interval. But during the serving of his sentence, during the serving of his sentence, he became insane. Then the person will be admitted to or committed to a mental health facilities, and the time he spent there in that mental institution will be counted as part of the years, will be part of his years of service in prison. Okay? So those are the judicial effect of insanity. Minority, so that's self-explanatory. The minimum age of criminal responsibility in the Philippines. Let me check. What do you call this? Minimum age of criminal responsibility. So, okay. Under the Republic Act, you need to take note on this. Republic Act 9344. The minimum age of criminal liability in Philippines is 15 years old. Okay? 15 years old. Meaning, if at the time of the commission of crime, you are 15 years old, no? You can already be 15 years old to 18 years old. So at the time of the commission of the crime, you are 15 to 18 years old, then you will be detained in the youth centers and go through rehab proceedings, no rehab programs. So you are not exempt. No, there is the 15 to 18 years old is not exempt from criminal liability. He or she will be punished under the law. But since he is considered minor, then instead of putting him or her directly to jail, he will undergo rehabilitation programs. Okay? the the exempting circumstance of minority under Republic Act 9344 is 15 years old below. Okay, if you are 15 years old below, then if you commit crime, then you cannot be held guilty, or you are exempt, no, from the criminal liability. Okay, RA 9344. And then accident, damnum absque injuria. Damnum absque injuria. This means that even if you do all the precautions, no, all the precautions, you were diligent, you observe due diligence in your actions, but accidents happen, no, pure accidents. Bad things happens without your intervention or without any fault attributable to you, then you are exempt from criminal liability. Example is, what are example? Okay. So for example, you run over a person, no? You run over a person, meaning you hit a person with your vehicle, but you've done all the necessary precautions, no? Like you check your brakes regularly, but still, without your fault, the brake mechanism of your car broke, so causing you to kill someone, then you are exempt from criminal liability, because that is pure accident, no? So the bad thing happens without your direct participation or without negligence on your part. Okay. Irresistible force. So what do you mean by irresistible force? Then the compulsion is by means of physical force, that the physical force must be irresistible, that the physical force must come to a third person. Okay, for example, B killed A, no, or B killed C. So when B killed C, the compulsion is by physical force. What do you mean by that? Okay, physical force. You were a person, a third party. So like in the example, B killed C, then A, through the force, A using his physical force, coerced, no, forced B to do that, no? That is irresistible force. That is not self-defense, because self-defense means that you are protecting your own self, no? But in this case, you killed someone, no? You killed someone because there is a intervention, no? A physical force exerted against you by a third party. Okay, so that is irresistible force. Then the physical force must be irresistible, meaning you cannot prevent it, you cannot repel, no? You have no means to defend yourself. Okay, that is irresistible force. Then uncontrollable fear, no? The threat which causes the fear is enabled. Okay. Okay. Uncontrollable fear, similar with irresistible force, no? But this is more on the psych level, mental, no? Psychological manipulation. Okay, there is a psychological manipulation exerted onto the doer of the criminal act, no? He fears for his life, for the life of his family, no? So that is the reason why he did something that is considered criminal, but he will be exempt from the criminal liability because of that uncontrollable fear. Okay. insuperable or lawful cause. Um, okay. The act is required by law to be done and that the person fails to perform such act, that his failure to perform such act was due to some lawful or insuperable cause. So this is a crime of this is by omission, no? You are required by law to do something, but you fail to do such act, and your failure to do such act is based on a lawful cause. So that okay. So that's under exempting circumstance. Okay, exempting circumstance. Next is, so we finish module 9. Module 10, mitigating circumstances. So what are mitigating circumstances? We have incomplete justification or exemption. So a little bit of run through, no? We mentioned all the elements of justifying and exempting circumstance. If one of the elements is missing in those elements, then it is mitigating circumstance. What do we mean by mitigating circumstance? So when we, diba, in imposing penalty, we have what we call minimum, medium, and maximum period. So, if there is no other circumstance in the case, there is no mitigating, aggravating, or any other circumstance that affect criminal liability, the judge will impose the minimum, maximum, the sorry, I was distracted, no, by someone. Okay, well, anyhow, again, let's go back. We have what we call minimum, medium, and maximum periods. If there are no circumstances affecting criminal liability, no aggravating or mitigating, the judge will impose the medium period, no, medium period. But if there is a mitigating, no, from medium period, the penalty will go down to minimum period, no? Then if there is an aggravating, from medium to maximum, okay? So I will not make your life more difficult by discussing the how to compute, no, penalties, no? It's very difficult and it's not within your course syllabus. So I just want you to remember that in imposing criminal liability, we have what we call minimum, medium, and maximum. Absence of mitigating and aggravating, only medium period. If there is mitigating, then minimum. If there is an aggravating, maximum. If there is mitigating and aggravating, medium. They will cancel out each other. Okay? Under 18 or over 70 years old, so minority, because diba, again, under RA 9344, the minimum age of criminal liability is 15. So but if you are 15 years old to 18 years old, 15 years old but less than 18 years old, meaning you're minor, that is considered a mitigating circumstance. Okay, so the penalty imposed will be in its minimum period. Okay, or 70 years old, so meaning you are old, no, by humanitarian reason, so the penalty will be imposed in its minimum period. No intention to commit so grave a wrong. Okay, so remember our discussion on aberratio ectus. Yeah, that's under Article 14, no? Article 14, paragraph 1. No? So the discussion we have on Article Article 14, paragraph 1, this is number 3, no intention to commit so grave a wrong. So instead of intending to only cause physical injury, you killed someone, no? So that is no intention to commit grave a wrong, sufficient provocation or threat. So in the defense against family and in self-defense, no, if there are three elements, no. The three elements is unlawful aggression, the means used to repel the aggression is necessary, and the third one is sufficient provocation or threat, no. So if you will be the defendant and then the person you killed, no, murder, so to make it more for you to picture the scenario, if you killed someone and this someone caused there is a sufficient provocation on his part, no, on his part, then the victim's provocation, no, will be used as a mitigating factor. Okay, it is the victim's sufficient provocation or threat that will be considered as the mitigating circumstance. Passion or obfuscation, so crime of passion and so like you committed the crime at the height of your emotion, okay, so that it can be considered as a mitigating circumstance. Voluntary surrender, meaning you committed a crime and before the crime was before a warrant is issued against you, you already went to the police station or to the any other persons in authority and you surrender yourselves. You surrender yourself, then that can be considered as mitigating circumstance. Voluntary plea of guilt, so during arraignment, no, so if the case is already, you were already arraigned, then you plead guilty. Voluntary plea of guilt, that is mitigating circumstance. Plea to a lower offense, so instead of the crime murder, no, you plead to be for homicide and it is accepted by the prosecution and by the court, so it can be considered as a mitigating circumstance. Physical defect, so if you are a person with PWD, no, persons with ano ba yung D sa PWD, I forgot. I am getting hungry because I am with disability. Sorry, persons with disability, no? So yun. Illness, no? So because in illness, because in prescribing the penalties, no, the court, the judge will also exercise some humanitarian considerations, no, will consider some humanitarian reasons. So if the person saw, or if the judges saw that the person is critically ill or is ill, then instead of punishing him to medium penalty, then it will be reduced because of the physical suffering that the person is already experiencing. Okay, analogous circumstances. Okay, analogous meaning similar circumstances from the one we have mentioned. Okay. That's module 10. Module 11 is just an exam. So module 12, let's proceed to module 12. aggravating and alternative circumstance. So what are the aggravating? Example of aggravating. Okay. I'll just cut this discussion because we have a very long video already, 50 minutes. So I need to cut. So as for me to upload it in our YouTube channel. Okay.